I'm Molly, a 38-year-old with a husband named Bill. Now, Bill is the eldest of 3 brothers. His younger siblings, Mike and Drew, are both married with a kid each. They're both good as gold. Same goes for their wives. Honestly, they're the sweetest. You hear about in-law drama, but not in my life. I've lucked out with a great bunch and we all get along just fine. There is a fly in the ointment though, my mother-in-law. When Bill and I tied the knot, she was a delight. Julia, she's called, always with a friendly smile. I thought I hit the jackpot with her as a mother-in-law. My father-in-law, who's since passed away, was also around when Bill and I got hitched. He was a real gem too. I remember thinking just how lucky I was to marry into such a great family. However, a few years into our marriage, Mike and Drew both got hitched, and before long, both their wives were expecting. That's when the winds shifted with Julia. It began with small things. Bill and I were living in an apartment just a hop, skip, and a jump away from his parents, and we'd pop by regularly. One day, out of the blue, the coffee they used to serve me just stopped. I thought maybe Julia has simply forgotten, so I asked her, "Could you pour me a cup of coffee?" Her response was a harsh, "Don't ask every time. Think for yourself. You're so intrusive." I never heard such words from her before. It knocked me for 6, and all I could muster was an apology. Looking back, I think that might have been the starting point. Julia began pointing fingers at me for not having a child and started being outright mean. And Bill? Not a word against him. She seemed to coddle him even more. Maybe he liked being the apple of his mother's eye, but he turned a blind eye to the way I was being treated. Whenever I sought help, he'd act as if nothing was amiss. This ordeal went on for years. Then one day, we were celebrating Lena's 4th birthday, Mike's little girl. We were all getting together at my in-laws for a birthday bash. As we pulled up with gifts in tow, we found everyone else was already there. In a tone feigning concern, Julia asked Bill, "You're late. Are you okay?" When I piped up, "I'm sorry, the rows were busy," she retorted, "I wasn't asking you. I bet you were just slow getting ready. Don't bother my son. Your makeup doesn't change a thing." Her words took the wind out of my sails. Bill saw it all, but as always didn't lift a finger and made a beeline for the house. You'd think he could say something, anything. Holding on to that vain hope, I trailed after him. As we stepped into the room, the gang was all there. And Lena, the birthday girl and star of the day, darted over to me, beaming. Molly!" As I wished her a happy birthday, she replied, "Thanks for coming," with an innocent smile. And for a moment, my heart found a little peace. Just then, Julia, who clearly wasn't too thrilled about my chat with Lena, muttered under her breath, "Quit gabbing and start helping with the prep, would ya?" I mumbled an apology and made a beeline for the kitchen. There I found Nicole, my sister-in-law, and mom to little Lena. Drew's wife, the newest addition to our family, had to bail due to some unavoidable stuff she had going on today. "Hey Nicole, sorry I'm late. Need a hand?" I asked. She waved it off saying, "No worries. Julia said we're getting Uber Eats today, so we just needed to get 8 plates. I've got it covered, so you can chill." I thought there'd be heaps to do. Guess Julia was just cheesed off that I was having a blast with Lena. Together, Nicole and I carried the plates and cutlery to the table and got it ready for the family. That's when Julia decided to drop her surprise. "The Uber Eats is here with some roast beef. Since it's Lena's big day, I thought we could splash out a bit," she said, looking rather chuffed. We served the roast beef and bam, we were ready to roll. Everyone started taking their seats as per Julia's seating chart. Bill, my husband, found his seat next to Mike, so I tried to slide in next to him, but Julia was quick to intervene. "Hold your horses, Molly. Bill's next to Mike. You can't sit there." I was flummoxed. Where should I sit then?" I asked, but she didn't say anything. In the end, I was left standing like a lemon. After a bit, Julia was all, "Well, shall we dig in?" But I was still on my feet, and for some weird reason, there wasn't a roast beef in sight for me. Julia, where do I tried to ask, but she interjected. "Oh, you're still there. I forgot. Grab any spot that's free, okay?" Hearing this, I plonked down at the very last seat, but there was just a small plate and a fork, no roast beef. I had a sinking feeling, but still took a shot. Julia, I'm missing a roast beef." "Oh, looks like I messed up the count when I ordered. My bad, Molly. How about some mac and cheese?" she suggested, grinning like a Cheshire cat. Mac and cheese?" I echoed, baffled. "Yeah, we've got some leftovers from last night in the fridge. Just zap it in the microwave," she said casually. I was taken aback, but Julia, as chill as ever, called out, "Let's eat," and started tucking in. Everyone else seemed a bit gobsmacked, but even Bill started carving into his meat. I sighed and heated up the leftover mac and cheese and dug in. Just then, Nicole, who was sat next to me, whispered, "Hey, sis, let's go halves on mine." "But I feel bad," I started, but she cut in. "Don't sweat it. It's weird that you're the only one without any. I can't polish off this beast on my own anyway." I thanked her and was about to nick a slice of her beef when Julia hollered, "Wait! What do you think you're doing? Nicole, you're still young and planning on kid number 2, right? You've gotta eat right," she said, stopping me from taking a bite out of Nicole's portion. "But Julia, Molly's food is..." Nicole tried to step in for me, but Julia cut her off. "It's fine. Molly doesn't seem keen on having any kids," she retorted. A smirk plastered across her face as she gauged my reaction. Feeling bad for Nicole, who'd been dragged into this, I replied, "I'm sorry, Nicole. I'm good, really. I appreciate the thought, though. Thanks a lot." As I said that, Nicole looked like she wanted to say something, pain flickering across her face, but I chose to ignore it and dug into my reheated mac and cheese. Even I could see how miserable I was looking, being the only one at this happy get-together stuck with mac and cheese. But hey, it's not like I was in any position to kick up a fuss. So I just bit the bullet and chowed down on the mac and cheese. Then it was time for the gift-giving bit with Lena. I'd managed to snag something she'd been itching to have, but as I went to hand it over to her, my husband Bill swoops in and takes it off me, giving it to Lena himself. And to make things worse, my mother-in-law was smirking at the whole scene. And here I was, the one who'd trekked to the store and put down the cash for the gift. Lena, however, responded with a heartfelt, "Thank you," and promptly ripped into the wrapping paper. The moment she caught sight of what was inside, she let out an excited, "Wow!" and rushed over to me. "Molly, this is what I said I wanted. You remembered. Thank you." My quick on her feet mother-in-law Julia jumped in though. "Lena, it wasn't Molly who bought that for you, it was Bill." "No way! I only told Aunt Molly that I wanted this. Uncle couldn't know that. Grandma, aren't you being weird?" Lena defended me, thanking me over and over again. I gotta say, her words were a real lifesaver. But not everyone was a fan, namely my husband and his mom. They'd been shooting daggers at me the entire time Lena was thanking me. While I was deep in conversation with Lena, Julia pipes up. Let's dig into the cake now. Molly, could you be a doll and carry it over? With a resigned sigh, I tell Lena, we'll pick up our chat later, and lug over the fancy cake dish, fork, and knife that Julia has singled out. The cake they brought out was a real beauty, straight from a famous bakery. Then, out of the blue, Bill pipes up.
Mom, I've got the cake,
he announces without even running it by me. Well, considering I got Lena's present, I suppose it's only fair that he chips in too. At least that's what I was thinking until my husband sidles up to me and whispers,
Can you front me? It turns out I forgot to bring cash today.
My first thought was, you've got to be kidding me. But what was done was done. Julia whispers the amount in my ear and I begrudgingly pull out my wallet and cough up the dough. Julia begins cutting the cake, handing out slices, one by one. Everyone ready for the cake? Dig in, she announces. And yet again, I had the sneaking suspicion, and yup, my piece was missing. Julia, Bill, Mike, Nicole, Lena, and Drew all had their pieces. The cake was cut into 6 equal parts. When Nicole, noticing my piece was AWOL, chimes in. Julia, there's no cake for Molly. Julia brushes it off with a dismissive. It's no big deal. She could stand to lose a few pounds, and it's a shame to cut up this perfectly sliced cake again. All this while chuckling. Nicole, feeling a bit awkward, looks down and murmurs, but I reassure her. It's all good. It's Lena's birthday after all. Enjoy without thinking twice about me. But honestly, I was at the end of my rope. I was dying to give Julia and Bill a piece of my mind, but I didn't want to sour the atmosphere on my niece's special day. However, I couldn't stomach being there a moment longer, so I quietly excused myself. I'm heading home a bit early, and left on my own. Did my husband offer to drive me home? Nope. Instead, he says,
I'm taking the car home so you can catch the bus.
So, like a good little wife, I hopped on the bus and headed home as instructed. A few hours later, Bill strolled in, clearly feeling on top of the world. My patience was threadbare by then, and I seriously demanded he do something about the day's drama. However, he shrugged it off with a laugh, saying,
You're too sensitive. You can't live your life like that.
I reminded him I'd been left out at the dinner and the cake. But he retorted,
Didn't my mother say she just made a few mistakes? It's just meat and cake. Don't say such pitiful things.
With that, he took himself off to our room, acting like I was the one being unreasonable. And that was the end of that conversation. My patience had always been my strong suit, but I was teetering on the edge. For the first time, I seriously contemplated divorce. I was starting to see our marriage was hanging by a thread. Fast forward a week later, I got an invite to a nearby fireworks festival. The invitees included my husband, Julia, Mike, Nicole, and Lena. Given the birthday fiasco, I wasn't too thrilled about hanging out with my husband and his mom, so I turned them down politely. However, I was told that Lena declared, I don't want to go unless Aunt Molly is with us. So, I grudgingly agreed to go. We planned to meet up a bit early before the fireworks kicked off to indulge in the food stalls. I wasn't really feeling hungry and was just surveying the place when Lena spotted a food stall and burst out, I want to eat chicken! So we trotted over to get her some. Suddenly, we were approached by a bunch of guys with cameras who asked,
Can we interview you?
They were live streaming the fireworks festival on a well-known news program that I was familiar with. They wanted to showcase our seemingly harmonious family. My husband, Julia, and even Mike gave the thumbs up, so the crew got started right away aiming their questions at Lena, who was happily chomping on her fried chicken. When asked if she could polish off such a hefty chunk of chicken, she retorted, "I'm going to give the rest to my mom and Aunt Molly."
Mom and Aunt Molly?
Lena held my hand and replied to the reporter's question. "The other day was my birthday, but Aunt Molly couldn't eat any cake. Grandma always bullies Aunt Molly, so I decided to give it to her today," she said, a huge grin lighting up her face. The reporter awkwardly tried to switch gears, but Lena pressed on. "Grandma is mean. On my birthday, everyone had roast beef, but Aunt Molly only had mac and cheese. I thought it was really unfair." Hearing this, the TV crew decided to cut their losses and made a hasty exit, figuring it wasn't a good look to continue. Of course, Lena didn't mean any harm. She didn't really grasp the concept of live broadcasting and was just standing up for me. After the show aired, a torrent of messages poured in from viewers who had tuned in, berating Julia.
How can you make your daughter-in-law eat macaroni and cheese? That's the pits. Poor thing.
And, "I thought you had a good relationship with your daughter-in-law, but you were bullying her." In the end, Julia and my husband took an early exit, leaving me to thoroughly enjoy the fireworks festival with Lena and the rest of her family. A couple days later, I sat down for a chat with my husband and my mother-in-law. I voiced my intention to file for divorce. My husband pleaded with me to rethink, while Julia bellowed, "I will never allow a divorce." But Nicole and others were ready to testify, providing evidence of my mother-in-law's bullying and my husband's failure to step in. Upon hearing this, both of them blanched and hung their heads. "Bill, you live with her," I quipped, sporting a smile. "With your mother, who you love more than me. You are a mommy's boy after all." And with that, I bid adieu to my in-laws' house. Realizing that divorce was inevitable, my husband quickly conceded. The divorce process was surprisingly smooth, and I was soon officially free. Nowadays, I've got my own little spot in an apartment right near my office. It's a cozy place my brother used to call home. After the divorce, my ex found himself a bit strapped for cash, since I was the one footing 80% of the rent, and he wound up moving back in with his mom. Since all this went down, Lena's made it clear she doesn't want anything to do with Julia, and hasn't set foot in her grandparents' house. But hey, silver lining, I've kept up a pretty steady rapport with Lena's family, meeting up with them on the regular. "Let's celebrate my next birthday together too, Aunt Molly," Lena told me. Honestly, I'm already counting down the days to her next birthday.